right, so we are here to do a test for the Executive Edition. This is newly rebranded. We were previously calling this the Platinum Edition. It is now the Executive Edition Gauntlet, which contains a full desktop computer system based on, in my view, widely trusted Raspberry Pi technology. So what we're going to do today is take a look at the difference in loading time, both for initial boot and then for internet connectivity for the Raspberry Pi Zero Model W, which I have embedded into this Mark II Gauntlet, into this prototype edition. And we're going to test that against a Raspberry Pi 3 Model B version 1.2, which I have here. Now, to try to isolate everything just down to the boards, we're running basically the same screen. One is capacitive, one is resistive touchscreens, but they have the same draw power. So we should be experiencing pretty much the same load times. I've got a wired mouse in the Pi 3 versus a Bluetooth mouse that I've previously hooked up to the Pi Zero. So that's a little bit of a difference, but that's just going to be for connectivity establishment once it's activated, and we're really looking for boot time for the OS here. Other than that, everything else is pretty much identical. These cables that I'm using are USB to micro USB cables to power the Pis, and I'm using Apple charge ports, two identical ones. I've embedded this one in a little shelf that I've printed out, but they're basically the same part, and they give the same voltage. So we should be getting pretty equivalent results, except for what the processing speed of the boards is. So let's go ahead and hook up power supplies to both devices. Cool, and I'm going to unplug the power supply from the onboard battery and put it into the Apple charge port. Perfect, so what I've also done here, in addition to these two setups, is I've just brought power to the table here, and I've plugged in a switch, an on-off switch, and I don't know if it's on or off. It is off. Excellent. Off position. So I'm going to go ahead and plug, and then from the switch I've brought out another extension cord here, just merely to have a splitter so that I can have two outlets running off of the same switch, so that when I switch this switch, both Pis will power up at exactly the same time, and we can get a valid test comparison side by side. So we'll plug both of these charge stations into the power strip, and then I'm going to maneuver these two devices so that the screens are both visible for load up. There's the camera. Okay, I think we're good there. Just come around and check. See both screens. Okay, so now let's go ahead and flip the switch, and I'm going to go ahead and run a stopwatch, and we'll see just how long these things take to boot up. Stopwatch. All right. So I will set this right here. Now, let's see if this set up so it can be read. Perfect. Sake bottle to the rescue, right? There we go. Much better. Much more stable. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and flip this switch and start the timer at the same time. Neither Pi seems to have received. Aha! It would help if I actually plugged in the power supply. So let's go ahead and stop this stopwatch and reset. All right, let's try this again. The first rule of IT is not necessarily reboot, it's did you plug the device in the first place? So, I'm going to try to start the stopwatch and boot the Pies simultaneously. Test 2, here we go. So it looks like the Gauntlet screen powered up first, but it was just a split second earlier. They're both loading. Almost to 20 seconds. We're still booting on both devices. 20 seconds. All right, so the Pi 3 at about 22 seconds looks like it's starting to load the OS. The Pi 0 in the Gauntlet is still at a white screen. 30 seconds. The Pi 3 has booted and is now starting to identify devices. We're at 40 seconds. The Pi 0 is still now a black screen, preparing to load the OS. Okay, 50 seconds. It looks like the Pi 3 is loaded, and now the Pi 0 has loaded its back screen and is starting to boot the OS and load the apps to the home page. A full minute before the Pi 0 really got there, and it looked like the Pi 3, I'll have to rewatch the footage, but it looked like we got there at about half that time. So this has been an interesting test. As you can see, this mouse is going a little crazy, but I'm going to try to click. Let's go ahead and stop the clock. Let's get something underneath that mouse. There's a cardboard here. Oh, much better. Oh, sorry, much better. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start the clock again, and we're going to go ahead and time how long it takes for the Raspberry Pi 3 to load its internet browser. So let's go ahead and reset our clock again, and we'll do start and click the internet. So it's loading. And there we go, about 8 seconds in. That really wasn't bad for the Pi 3 at all. So let's go ahead and stop the clock there. I'm going to reset again, and we're going to try the exact same thing here with the Pi 03. I'm sorry, Pi 0W. Let's get our mouse engaged. Oh, let's turn the mouse on. How about that? Cool. All right, so we're going to start the clock and then hit the internet browser. Start the clock. The internet browser. It is loading. 8 seconds, 10, 15 seconds, 16, 20, about 21 seconds in, the Pi 0W engaged the internet browser. So that's a significant difference from 8 seconds. Yeah, so I guess we've learned quite a bit here in this little display, just testing the boot capacity, the boot load time for the operating system. These are both running Pixel, straight from Raspbian, a Debian-based Linux operating system, full desktop. And we've learned quite a bit from watching them boot and then watching them load their internet browser. There's a significant speed differential between the Pi 3 and the Pi 0W. I hope this has been helpful. It's certainly been helpful for my own R&D.